What's up guys, Jake here with JakesGotHerps, not to be confused with herpes. Herpes is nasty. In this video I'm going to be doing a video on how to convince your parents to let you keep a pet reptile. Now, there are a lot of different factors that go into this, and sometimes the answer is just going to be no, right? Like, this isn't going to be some video to mind control your parents into letting you keep whatever you want. There's certain situations that people are put in where you just can't, keep a reptile. There's different financial situations or different living conditions where you might not be able to keep one, and that is unfortunate, but I guess it's just reality sometimes. But if you have the opportunity to keep a reptile, it's a very rewarding experience, and I just want to make this video to try and give you guys some advice on letting your parents let you keep a reptile, because not everyone is very fond of reptiles. There's a lot of sort of negative thoughts associated with reptiles since really like the beginning of biblical times. Reptiles are not really everyone's favorite thing. Not too many people are fond of them, but there are a lot of good pet reptiles, and that brings me to my first point, is where you have to pick a reptile that is a good pet. Now, I would honestly recommend sticking away from things like these yellow anacondas. I wouldn't recommend really most people keeping a yellow anaconda, but I would also stick away from most snakes in general. Now, this depends on your parent. Like, my dad kept snakes a lot when he was younger. He kept ball pythons and king snakes and things like that, so getting a snake for me wasn't, too out of the picture, but a lot of people really don't like snakes for whatever reason, and a lot of people, even more people, dislike rodents, and that's something you're going to have to deal with if you keep a snake. You're going to have to deal with the snake itself and feeding it rodents, sometimes live rodents, so a lot of the times parents are not going to be too fond of that, especially if it's something like a boa or a python. A lot of people hear the word boa constrictor or python and think of a large dangerous snake, and obviously that isn't true. Most pythons don't typically get very big, and most boas as well, but a lot of people are just going to assume that, and you're not always going to be able to convince your parents that, not all pythons are giant killer animals. Sometimes you're just going to have to go along with what they think, and that's sort of my first piece of advice, is try and pick a reptile that makes a good pet, and you're sometimes going to have to go along with what they say. As far as reptiles that I would recommend for a first pet reptile, especially if your parents are sort of resistant to you keeping a reptile, would be a leopard gecko and a crested gecko. Now, the reason being is there's a few reasons actually. One is they're quite a bit cheaper. A lot of parents don't really want to spend a ton of money, because if you're getting your first reptile and you're a younger kid, chances are they're probably going to be paying for it. And bearded dragons are awesome pets, or like blue tongue skinks and things like that. But with the UV lights and heat lights and things like that, it can be quite a bit more expensive, and they also eat quite a bit more, and your parents are going to have to be going to the pet store a lot with you to get a lot of crickets and different types of leafy greens and things like that. Whereas these leopard geckos basically just eat mealworms, and mealworms don't make noise like crickets do. They're not very messy. You can just keep them in like the fridge or something, and they're very easy to keep, and it's very discreet feeding them. It's not something that's a big deal by any means. Same with a crested gecko. Crested gecko just eats crested gecko diet, which would definitely be ideal if you have a parent that doesn't want to deal with any sort of rodents or insects or something. I think that's definitely a good one as well. And aside from that, they're fairly cute animals. I mean, if you look at this, I think the majority of people would say, looking at this cute little face, would say that is a fairly cute animal. And I think that's something that parents, that's a big milestone for parents to get to, is realizing that not all reptiles are slimy, scaly animals. I mean, reptiles in general aren't really slimy, but parents don't always know this, and it's really more about educating your parents than I think it is about educating yourself. Obviously, you need to know how to keep the animal that you want, but I think it's even more important to educate your parents on, on these animals. So that brings me to my next point, which is get in touch with somebody who has one of these animals, a leopard gecko or a crested gecko, and that would be willing to, talk to you and talk to your parents, whether that's a breeder or somebody at a pet shop. I know a lot of breeders will definitely go out of their way to make sure that you know as much as you can, that will talk to your parents for you, and will give you a good deal on a high quality gecko that's not going to be sick or anything. And I think that's really important, to get your parents involved. You can learn as much as you want about geckos, but if you don't get your parents involved, they're not going to know everything that they need, and they could, be told something wrong, and they're not going to know exactly what they're getting into. And I think that's important. I think, getting your parents involved is one of the most important aspects of convincing them, because a lot of people say, oh, you gotta be educated, read a lot of books and things like that, which is important. But like I said, if parents aren't aware of the ins and outs of keeping these animals, then it's not going to go over too well. And my last piece of advice, and this is probably the most important thing, is you have to be optimistic without being obnoxious, I guess, is a way to say it. If you tell your parents you want, a reptile, and you mention it one time and you never mention it again, they're gonna assume that's just a phase, right? That you saw a JakesGotHerps video, you thought that was cool, but it's really not something that you really want to get into. It's just sort of a phase for you, and it's really important to be optimistic and enthusiastic about keeping a reptile without being annoying. And it's a very tough thing to balance, because on one hand, if you don't talk about them enough, don't mention them enough, then your parents aren't going to think that you really want one that bad. But if you mention it all the time, and you're very obnoxious about it, that's going to sort of deter them from letting you keep one, which is no good. So you have to present keeping a reptile in a way that is that makes you look very enthusiastic about it, but is not too obnoxious either. And I think that's very important, as well as when you go to get this animal, try and do it around like a holiday or perhaps your birthday or something. That way, it sort of substitutes as a present. If you just go and ask your parents for like, $100, $200 or something to get a gecko, they're probably not going to just shell out a bunch of money for you to just get it. And unless you have extremely supportive parents, it's probably not going to happen. So those are some tips I can bring you guys on convincing your parents to let you keep a pet reptile. Now, hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I tried to bring you guys some tips that were more concrete and not just some of the same old stuff that you hear, about educating yourself. Education is important, but I really think it's important to present all this information to your parents and show them that these animals aren't too bad. And like I said, get involved with breeders or pet shop owners and things like that. Have them show these animals to your parents. If you go to a pet store, ask to handle one. Ask if your parents can handle one, because I think once they actually see these animals and experience them for themselves, they'll be a lot less resistant to letting you keep one. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Tried to present it in the best way I could. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.